A man is standing in a parking lot. It is 11 p.m. He hears a sound he does not immediately recognize.
Then he looks down. There is a hole in his jacket that was not there before. He does not feel pain yet. That delay is not shock, it is biology, and understanding it explains everything that happens next. This is a second-by-second breakdown of what a bullet actually does to a human body. The physics is documented. The medical record is extensive.
Let's start with what just entered him.
1. The projectile. A standard 9mm bullet leaves the barrel at approximately 370 meters per second. It carries roughly 500 joules of kinetic energy. It is traveling faster than the speed of sound. It reaches him before the sound of the shot does. The crack he hears comes after. The bullet was already inside him when he heard the gun. The bullet does not cut through tissue the way a knife does. It pushes. At that velocity, the tissue in its path has no time to move aside. It compresses, tears, and in the fraction of a second after impact, snaps back. This snapback creates a temporary cavity, a void many times larger than the bullet itself, that collapses almost instantly. The damage it leaves behind is not a clean channel. It is a zone of devastation surrounding the bullet's path. 2. The first milliseconds. The bullet has entered his left shoulder. It has passed through the deltoid muscle, missed the subclavian artery by 4 centimeters, and lodged against the scapula. In the first 10 milliseconds, his nervous system has not yet processed what happened. The signal from the wound site is traveling toward his brain at approximately 70 meters per second. It has not arrived.
He is still standing. His expression has not changed.
The bullet has stopped moving. The kinetic energy it carried has been transferred entirely into his tissue. That energy had to go somewhere. It went into tearing, heating, and compressing everything within several centimeters of the bullet's path. 3. The pain signal arrives.
At approximately 0.3 seconds after impact, the first pain signals reach his brain. Not the full picture. The initial signal is pressure and heat, a burning sensation that does not yet have a location he can precisely identify.
His brain is also receiving conflicting information. The body was not prepared for this input. The nervous system, flooded with novel high-intensity signals, takes a moment to process and localize the source. This is why gunshot victims often report not knowing they were shot for several seconds. The nervous system's interpretation of the event lags behind the event itself. By the 1-second mark, the localization is complete. He knows where it is. The pain is now sharp, hot, and total. His hand moves toward his shoulder before he makes a conscious decision to move it. 4. What is happening at the wound site? The bullet's entry wound is small, approximately the diameter of the projectile. The skin closes partially around it due to elasticity. From the outside, it looks almost minor. Inside, the picture is different. The temporary cavity has torn muscle fibers across a radius of several centimeters. Small blood vessels have been sheared. The tissue directly adjacent to the bullet path is bruised, compressed, and partially devitalized. It is no longer receiving adequate circulation. Bleeding has begun. Not from a single vessel, from dozens of small tears across the wound cavity. The blood is filling the tissue space and beginning to track toward the path of least resistance, which in this case is downward through the muscle toward his armpit. His shoulder is beginning to swell, not visibly yet. Internally, the pressure building inside the tissue will become significant within minutes. 5. The body's emergency response. His sympathetic nervous system has activated. Adrenaline is flooding his bloodstream. Heart rate has jumped from 72 to over 130 beats per minute in under 3 seconds. This acceleration is not helpful for a bleeding wound. A faster heart rate means more blood pumped per minute, which means more blood lost per minute from the torn vessels in his shoulder. Blood vessels in his extremities are constricting simultaneously. His body is redirecting blood away from the periphery toward his vital organs, the same vasoconstriction mechanism that operates in hypothermia. His hands are going cold. His blood is also beginning to clot at the wound site. Platelets are aggregating at the points of vessel damage. Clotting factors are activating in a cascade. This process takes minutes. He is losing blood faster than the clotting can compensate right now. 6. Shock. He is sitting on the ground now. He does not remember deciding to sit down. His legs made the decision independently when his blood pressure dropped below the threshold required to maintain upright posture. He is going into hemorrhagic shock. Not from catastrophic blood loss, the bullet missed his major vessels, but the internal bleeding is accumulating, his circulating blood volume is decreasing. His heart is working harder to compensate with less to work with. His thinking is becoming less sharp. Not confusion exactly, more like distance. The parking lot feels further away than it is. Sounds are arriving slightly delayed. This is cerebral hypoperfusion. His brain is receiving less blood than it needs to operate at full capacity. The rational mind is still present, but it is running on reduced supply. 7. What determines survival from here? His wound is survivable. The bullet missed every structure that would have made it immediately fatal. The subclavian artery, the brachial plexus, the lung apex. He is bleeding, but not catastrophically. What determines whether he survives the next 30 minutes is one variable: how quickly he receives hemorrhage control. Direct pressure on the wound reduces blood loss dramatically. A bystander with a shirt pressed hard against the entry point is doing more for his survival than almost any other intervention available outside a hospital. Time to surgical intervention matters for the internal bleeding that cannot be reached from the outside. Every minute the cavity fills with blood is a minute of increasing pressure on surrounding structures and decreasing circulating volume. 8. The bullet in the body. The bullet is still inside him, lodged against the scapula. It is not moving. It is not toxic in the short term. Contrary to popular belief, bullets do not need to be removed urgently in most cases. What does need immediate attention is the tissue damage around it, the devitalized muscle, the torn vessels, the accumulating blood. These are the threats. The bullet itself is currently the least dangerous thing in the wound. Over the following days, if untreated, the devitalized tissue becomes a site for infection. Bacteria find dead tissue hospitable. The wound that was survivable acutely becomes dangerous chronically through a completely different mechanism.
In a hospital, the wound is irrigated, devitalized tissue is debrided, bleeding vessels are ligated, and the cavity is managed to prevent infection. The bullet may be left in place indefinitely if removal poses more risk than benefit.
9. The nervous system damage. He will notice something in the days following the wound. His left arm is not working correctly, not paralyzed, but weak. Specific movements are missing in a way that has no visible explanation. The temporary cavity passed close to the brachial plexus, the network of nerves running from the spine through the shoulder and down the arm. The pressure wave from the bullet's passage, even without direct contact, was enough to stretch and bruise nerve fibers. This is called neuropraxia. The nerve is not severed, it is stunned. Function may return partially or fully over weeks to months, or it may not. The outcome depends on the degree of stretch and the nerve's capacity for regeneration. He will drop things with his left hand for the next 6 months without understanding why. The bullet never touched the nerve. The shock wave did the work. 10. The physics behind why location is everything. The same bullet traveling at the same velocity produces wildly different outcomes depending on where it enters the body. 4 centimeters to the left and it transects the subclavian artery. Blood loss of 2 liters in under 3 minutes. Unsurvivable without surgical intervention within that window, which in a parking lot at 11 p.m. is not available. 3 centimeters downward, and it enters the lung apex. Pneumothorax. The lung collapses as air fills the pleural space. Survivable with treatment, fatal without. 2 centimeters inward, and it strikes the brachial plexus directly. The arm is functionally paralyzed, permanently. In most cases, he was hit where he was hit. The margin between his outcome and each of those outcomes was measured in centimeters. The bullet did not know. It simply went where physics sent it. 11. The ones who remember it. Survivors of gunshot wounds describe the moment of impact with striking consistency. A punch, a shove, something that registers as blunt force before it registers as penetration. The pain comes after, always after. What comes later? The weeks of limited movement, the nerve pain, the sound sensitivity that makes loud noises feel wrong in a way they did not before. That is less discussed but more lasting. The bullet stopped in his shoulder in under a millisecond. The body's response to it will last years. Physics ends quickly. Biology takes its time.